Hello, my dear students. Welcome you all to Sri Jayendra Rank Zone classes. I am your mentor and your friend for the subject biology, and I will be taking off the zoology part, that is the animal science. My dear students, in the previous video, we discussed about evidences of evolution from different aspects. In the last lecture, we covered the evidences from biogeographical realms. We discussed that all the continents present in this world today, they were actually united previously and they were known Pangea. And after the displacement of the earth crust, these continents get separated, their boundaries get separated. So previously, when they were combined, they were divided into six biogeographical regions known as realms. So after that, we came to know about Darwin finches, and we also came to know that paleontological evidences means evidences from fossils and evidences from biogeographical realms. They are the greatest supporter of evidences of life or evidences of evolution. Now we are going to start with the evidences from embryology, which is the most important part in connecting the ancestor and the line of evolution. The evidences from embryology starts with the Beer's law. The Beer's law says an organism shows its ancestral stages in embryonic development. When, for example, we consider a human embryo, and that human embryo, when it develops during the embryological stages, it recapitulates some of the features of the previous species, like fishes, like amphibians. In embryonic stages, general characters appear first. So these general characters, they actually give appearance that how a single cellular organism converts into a multicellular organism and giving a projection to different shapes. The general characters, they appear first, then the specialized characters appear. And these general characters, in case of one embryological development of a particular species, actually resembles the previous species, means the species which was less evolved, or it is simple. Okay. Muller, he was first to propose recapitulation theory. According to ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, means ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Phylogeny means, the word phylogeny is coming from phylogenetic characters, okay? And ontogeny means the embryological, okay? It means any organism show its ancestral adult stages during its embryonic development. Okay, so an organism during its embryological development actually copies or projects or shows, reflects the adult stages of the previous or previously evolved species during its embryological development. It shows that all organisms evolved from common ancestor. Ernest Haeckel explained in detail and gave the term biogenetic law. Biogenetic law. Examples: the zygotes from which the development of all metazoans, you know, the animals, they are classified into parazoa and metazoa. Okay, so the zygotes from which the development of all metazoan bodies starts are single celled and quite comparable with the bodies of simple protozoans. Okay, this indicates the origin of metazoans from protozoal ancestors. Metazoans means apart from protistans, protozoa, all are metazoans. So zygotes from which the development of metazoan body starts are single-celled, and they basically resemble that we have evolved from protozoal ancestors. The earlier stages of embryonic development, like morula, blastula, gastrula, are basically similar in all metazoans. When zygote is formed, zygote undergoes the cleavage. This cleavage make it 16 cell stage, which is a morula, then blastula, then gastrula. Mean the moment it is going to reflect all its differentiated body parts, okay, it becomes similar to all metazoans, indicating a monophyletic origin. Okay, monophyletic origin. In the earlier stages of embryonic development, they reflect the monophyletic origin. Okay, the phylogenetically earliest metazoans, the sponges and cnidarians. Kingdom Animalia has been divided into parazoans and metazoans. The earliest metazoans include sponges, which are cellular, having cellular grade of organization. Cnidarians, both sponges and cnidarians, they don't have mesoderm, they have a diploblastic stage, have retained early gastrula like double layered diploblastic structure of body of metazoans. So in case of metazoans, the earlier embryological stages shows a diploblastic development. Okay, when we consider the migration of blastogenic cells to form ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm, you learn about the formation of epiblast and hypoblast, amniogenic cells. So in the reproductive chapter, in the reproduction chapter, so in case of metazoans, the earlier embryologic development actually resembles some of the metazoans. Those basically keep those characters in the adult stages as well. Okay, so keeping of the less evolved characters in their adult stages, it basically gives us a idea that okay, we have evolved from the same evolutionary line. The timeline of evolution for all of us is same. So Bayer's law basically says that an organism shows its ancestral stages in the embryonic development, and embryonic stages, general characters appear first and the specialized character appears afterwards. Then ontogeny repeats phylogeny. It was first proposed by Muller but actually settled by Ernest Haeckel in the form of biogenetic law. Okay, so these were some evidences which help you to understand that how organisms in their embryological stages resembles some of the less developed organisms and their characters. Okay, the sponges, the cnidarians, they are diploblastic. We do were diploblastic in the embryological stage, so it is a similarity. Earlier stages of embryonic development like morula, blastula, gastrula, they are all same for all the metazoans. This shows monophyletic origin, means source of origin is same. So now we are going to discuss the next slide. In fishes, the young individual developing from gastrula, in fishes, the young individual developing from gastrula is almost like the adult, but the tadpole larvae of amphibians bear more resemblance to the young one of fishes. That's very important. The tadpole larva of amphibians bear more resemblance to the young one of fishes because in case of amphibians, the tadpole larva shows partial neoteny. Okay, so this is means basically the showing of the adult characters by a larval stage. If a larval stage comes to be more developed than the adult stage, then it is a feature which is known as what? Neoteny. Okay. So in fishes, the young individual developing from gastrula is almost like the adult. But the tadpole larva of amphibians bear more resemblance to the young one of fishes. Mean it shows okay, they are basically related to fishes more than amphibians. This indicates origin of amphibians from fishes. Even after gastrulation in the vertebrates, the earlier post-gastral stages are quite similar in the members of all the different classes like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals. Okay. Just after gastrula, the stages are similar for all, whether it is fish, amphibian, reptiles, birds, and mammals. The differentiation of class characters appear in the later stages. In the specialized characters which basically differentiate that class from the previous one actually comes afterwards. But before, the common characteristics could be easily reflected from the embryological point of view. Moreover, the embryo of phylogenetically higher vertebrates pass through the adult stages of lower vertebrates. Phylogeny simply means what? Evolution. Mean evolutionary upgradation, evolutionary complexity. And ontogeny simply means what? The embryological formation. So basically, during the timeline of evolution, embryological development gives us a hint that okay, we are or anyone or any of the embryological form actually resembles the previous species. Okay, the embryology of the embryo of the phylogenetically higher vertebrates pass through the adult stages of lower vertebrate. Very important. Higher vertebrates pass through the adult stages of lower vertebrates before final attaining the characters of their respective classes. This proves that all vertebrates have evolved from the common fish-like ancestors, and also that both birds and mammals have evolved from reptiles. Okay, so there are many connecting links. There are many, in the previous lectures you came to know about different types of connecting links. Okay, so all these basically evidences, they help us to understand, to make a connect between the different species, but they are following the same timeline. Okay, when the heart develops in the embryos of amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, it is two-chambered. Okay, mean it is venous heart, as in the embryos and the adults of fishes. In later stages, the embryonic development in amphibians, reptiles, the heart becomes three-chambered. In birds and mammals, it is four-chambered in the last embryonic stage to continue, such as in the adults. So this basically says that okay, humans, the embryological development have a pharyngeal gill slit. So this pharyngeal gill slit basically resembles the what that we have evolved from fishes or amphibians. Those have pharyngeal gill slits. Okay. Although pharyngeal gill slits, they are rudimentary in case of fishes and amphibians as well, but they were present in the chordates. Okay, the chordates is the basic evolutionary line for fishes, amphibians, and humans as well, and that is why persistence of that pharyngeal gill slit in adult leads to cervical fistula. Okay, or pharyngeal fistula. Modern scientists have discovered biochemical recapitulation also. Mean the same thing. It is, it is not only happening in the organic evolution, it is also happening in the biochemical evolution. For example, fishes mainly excrete ammonia because they are in water. They don't have the renal portal system, which is ill developed. Adult amphibians excrete urea, okay, but their tadpoles excrete ammonia. So the tadpoles, which reflect the larval stages of amphibians, they actually resembling the fishes because tadpole is the embryological developmental stages of amphibians, and that is why they are resembling fishes and this excrete ammonia. Birds excrete uric acid, but their embryos excrete first ammonia and then urea during earlier stages. Birds excrete uric acid, okay, but their embryos excrete first ammonia and then urea during earlier stages. This is also give us a connect between different species. In embryonic stage, bird shows tooth birds, very important, tooth birds for some time, which become extinct later. It means they are resembling from reptiles, the toothed reptiles. It shows that birds evolved from toothed reptile like ancestors. Okay. So these were some common evidences from embryological point of view that how we can connect the embryo of a developed or a more developed species to a less developed species into the adult characters of the less developed species. Okay. I hope you got it. You understand all this. So we are moving to the next slide, my dear students. Yeah, this is the diagram I was actually trying to show you. Comparison of the stages in the development of vertebrate embryos. Like this is comparative development A of fishes, then B is of salamander. Okay, A is of fish. Sorry, A. I'll change the ink. A is of fish. Okay, this developmental stage. B is of salamander. Okay, then C is of tortoise. D of chick. E calf, and F human. So in all the embryological stages, you just compare the first one. They all are same. They all are having that caudal tail. Caudal tail. Now, secondly, you can see the presence of pharyngeal gill slits. You can see pharyngeal gill slits. Pharyngeal gill slits. Understood? Now you can see this second stage in which humans, especially, they come up with the development of limbs and the caudal tail starts to reduce. Caudal tail starts to reduce. Okay. So it basically depends that embryology actually recapitulates the, in the evolutionary line, the ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Okay. Mean the embryological stages actually recapitulates the evolutionary timeline of two species belonging, or if they are on the same timeline, right? Same evolutionary line, that they evolved from the same ancestor, right? Now coming to next, now we are going to discuss evidences from taxonomy. Taxonomy is basically the study of different taxonomic characters. It is basically a study of identification, nomenclature, and categorization of different organisms belonging to different species. Plants and animals, they show great diversity. Okay, when biodiversity is high, they also show some similarities among themselves. Okay, it is on account of these differences and resemblance that the taxonomists have to arrange them into smaller and larger groups. That is the work of taxonomist. Okay, to basically categorize the different taxonomic categories, means species according to their similarities and dissimilarities with the other one. Among species also there are differences and resemblance of varying degree. Some species resemble one another more closely than resemble the others and form a closely related group. The one which are having the same or the common ancestor, they behave or they show the characters which are common, or there are some common similar characteristics. So there are other groups of closely resembling species which are basically belonging to the same genus or basically belonging to the same family. The members of each group resemble each other more closely than they resemble the members of the other groups. Mean in a particular group, the members of each group resemble each other more closely. Mean if I talk about a particular population, okay, the population is basically reflecting a group of individuals belonging to a particular species living in a particular area at a given time. So all the individuals of a same population, of one population, they resemble each other like humans. All Homo sapiens are same. But if we compare Homo sapiens with other one, that might be we come up with some differentiating characters. So that is what they are trying to say, that members of each group resemble each other more closely than they resemble the members of other groups. Each such group of species is called genus. Very good. Genus. Genera also show different degrees of resemblance among themselves. Those that resembles one another more closely than the others are placed in a large group called family. That is what I was explaining. Okay. Many species, the closely related members of a particular species or different species, they are put in the same genus. Okay. The closely related members of same or about to same genus, they are put into the same family. Families are grouped into the larger units called orders, then orders into classes, classes into phyla, and phyla into kingdom. Evolution has ready explanation for this system of grouping or classifying plants and animals in group indicates relationship. So every time taxonomists, they actually depend upon the evolutionary projections of all these species to put them into a distinct category. So that is to be understood that if I discovered a new species of a plant or an animal, and if I want to put it into a distinct category, so first I have to confirm that the morphological, anatomical, physiological, biochemical, all the features of that particular newly discovered species by me, actually it resembles or it basically belongs to which of the evolutionary timeline. That is why I can only categorize them, that it will put into this category, and this category includes all these organisms. So this is what giving a similarity. Okay, coming to next special points. The aquatic mammals like dolphins, very important. The dolphin is an aquatic mammal. Penguin is a aquatic bird. Dolphins, whales, seals, porpoises don't have gill slits. They don't have gill slits because their adaptation to aquatic life is secondary. So dolphins, whales, seals, porpoises, they don't have gill slits because their adaptation to aquatic life is secondary. Being mammal, they have certain other characteristics like presence of air sacs for assisted respiration. Okay. In Acacia tree, well-developed compound leaves are found, but seedling has simple leaves like those found in all stages of development of its ancestors. The moment seed germinates, to the very first part which emerges in the form of aerial part, it is basically a simple leaf. But the adult or the fully acacia tree, it shows a compound leaves. So this basically resembles that, okay, the seedling of the acacia is actually resembling the stages of ancestors. Okay, this provide a good example of recapitulation. Modern day oaks of southern United States of America retain their foliage. It is also a pattern of leaf throughout the year, whereas the oak of northern United States are deciduous and shed their leaves during water. Okay, mean the presence or the location of oaks in two different regions of America basically have different pattern of leaves. Okay, different arrangement of leaves and different types of leaves like foliage and deciduous. The southern leaf species, on the basis of this character of the leaves, are considered to be more primitive than the northern oaks. So the southern oak tree, they are considered to be more primitive than the northern. Okay. However, the seedling of northern species are generally seen to retain their leaves during winter. This provides a good example of recapitulation. Okay. That during the seedling germinate, the northern species, they actually retain their leaf. They actually retain their leaf. But the adult northern American oak trees, they actually shed out their leaves. Okay. So this is what the recapitulation evidences from recapitulation theory given by Ernest Haeckel, proposed by Mueller, ontogeny repeats phylogeny. Now what is an evolutionary trend? A continuous change of character within an evolving lineage is called evolutionary trend. Means simple that the changes which are basically occurring in terms of characters in different species, okay, during the due course of evolutionary timeline. So this is known as what? Evolutionary trend. Now coming to next, theories of organic evolution. So we are going to discuss about the theories of organic evolution. Lamarckism. First theory of evolution was proposed by Lamarck, Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck. So Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck in 1744 to 1829, he published a book Philosophia Zoologica in 1809. So the book which was published by Lamarck, Philosophia Zoologica in 1809, basically was the first, it was the first published paper proposed by Lamarck and his work on the evolutionary backgrounds. Lamarck coined the terms invertebrates, annelid. The term biology was given by Lamarck and Treverius. The term biology was also given by Lamarck and Treverius. Lamarck also coined the term invertebrata and annelida. So these are some contributions of Lamarck in biological life. Theory of inheritance of acquired characters. Okay. So what exactly theory of inheritance of acquired characters is? Basic concept of Lamarckism. First is internal vital forces. According to Lamarck, there are some internal forces, okay, means there are some internal vital forces which are present in all organisms. By the presence of these forces, organisms have the tendency to increase the size of their organs or entire body. I mean, according to Lamarck, that we are basically, or organisms having inbuilt capacity to change their body shape. And this inbuilt capacity basically depends upon, the term was not known by Lamarck, but you know it, the DNA. So these internal vital forces are present in all organisms. By the presence of these forces, organisms have the tendency to increase the size of their organs or entire body. Effect of environment and new needs. Environment influences all type of organisms. Environments basically give a impact. It is basically acting as a stimuli to all types of organisms. Changing environment give rise to new needs. When there is a requirement to adapt a new environment, then only there comes evolution, variation, change. So changing environment give rise to new needs. New needs or desire produce new structures to accommodate, to acclimatize, to adapt that environment. The generation of new needs, the evolution, the productivity of new needs or desires produce new structures and change habit of an organism. Very important. So first is internal vital forces, that we all are having some internal vital forces which will help us to come or to change a body proportion in the terms of structure, shape, okay. Then effect of environment of new need. Environment influences all types of organisms. Changing environment gives rise to new needs. New needs or desires produce new structures and change habit of a person. Because of the evolution of new need, what will happen? The desires of the person will change, their requirements, their priorities will change, and they will change their habit. Use and disuse of organs. If an organ is constantly being used, it would be better developed. Like for example, I am a right-hander. My right hand muscles, they are, or they should be more developed in comparison to the left hand muscles. Okay. Whereas disuse of organ, if that organ is not used, it becomes degenerated. Vermiform appendix, all the vestigial organs, they actually not in a function right now in human body, for example, they becomes functionless, vestigial. If an organ is constantly used, it would be better developed, whereas disuse of organ result in its degeneration. Understood? Now coming to next, inheritance of acquired characters. During the life of an organism, new character developed due to the internal vital forces. The new character they develop due to internal vital forces. Effect of environment, new needs, and use and disuse of organs. These acquired characters mean the basis of all these acquired characters are, okay, the new characters which are basically developing inside a organism or a population, okay. That is because of first internal vital force, effect of environment and new needs, then use and disuse of organs. These acquired characters are inherited from one generation to the other. Okay, these acquired characters, they actually go from one generation to the other generation. By continuous inheritance, when it happens for again and again, when it happens again and again by continuous inheritance, what will happen? Many generations they receive the same characters. Okay, so many generations these acquired characters tend to make new generation. Okay, so because of accumulation of these acquired characters, might it had happened that a new generation will form, a new species will form, when it will help in the formation of new species quite different from its ancestors, resulting in the formation of new species. Okay, so although the Lamarckian proposal was not shortly right, there are many drawbacks. The first drawback I just want you to focus is that here it is mentioned that the acquired characters are inherited. But when we will study about principles of inheritance and genetics, we will came to know that okay, acquired characters they may inherit or they may not. It depends. It depends upon the potency and the frequency of the character which is coming again and again in a particular generation. So the acquired characters, the chances of acquired characters are very less because actually those acquired characters are not influencing DNA. And that is why in the internal vital forces, it is never mentioned or it is not mentioned that inbuilt forces of DNA. So these proposals, these points which are proposed by theory of Lamarckism, theory of organic evolution under the name of Lamarck, they actually have many loopholes, they actually have many drawbacks. Okay, now coming to next slide. Yeah, according to Lamarck, long neck and high forelimb of giraffe, the ancestral giraffe actually resembles Eohippus. According to this picture, it is just like Eohippus, resembling the Eohippus. It is not Eohippus. Aquatic birds stretch their toes and develop web. The aquatic birds they stretch their toes and they develop web. But we know very clearly that for every bit change, any bit of the change in body, it requires the influential change in the metabolism, influential change in the formation of proteins. These proteins give us that extra, you know, character or extra skill by the formation of some different morphological, anatomical, or physiological in functions. So aquatic birds, they stretch their toes and they develop back. It is something not to believe in. Snakes lost their eggs. Okay. This is something which was given by Lamarckism. We do have to respect it. But the fact is we have to understand the points of drawback, okay, or the demerits. Snakes lost their legs. That is why snakes they don't have limbs. They are limbless. But why they become limbless? There is a need. That's right. But because of that need, the acquired characters cannot make up the change. There should be a change in the DNA. There should be a change in the genetical configuration. Deers become good runners by the development of strong limbs and streamlined body. Some of the points are partial correct. Okay, the deers they become good runners by the development of strong limbs and streamlined body. Retractile jaws of carnivorous animals, like for example us, we are omnivore, but in case of carnivore, they can retract, they can open the jaw suspensorium is of that type that they can open the jaw very widely. So in this picture, you can see this ancestral giraffe is having a short neck to basically fulfill its food requirement. The giraffe is actually trying to, you know, catch the leaves of the tree, but the leaves of the tree are above its height. And that is why the vital force of the giraffe push the cells to divide and the length of the neck increases. And in this way, today's giraffe, the long neck of modern giraffe. So this is somewhat you can believe, but it is not completely true because without DNA, the changes they cannot be permanent. Okay. Now coming to next, criticism of Lamarckism. What are the different points which actually give a critic sense of critic to Lamarck? They don't follow the Lamarckism. According to the first concept, organism tends to increase their size, but it is not universally true. For example, among angiosperm, the trees seem to be primitive, and the shrubs, herbs, and grasses have evolved from the trees, but the size was reduced during evolution. Gymnosperms, those evolved previously than angiosperms, they have more height, greater height. But angiosperms, their height is less. Okay? So that is why it is mentioned that among angiosperm, the trees seem to be primitive. And the shrubs, herbs, and grasses have evolved from the trees. Okay? Second concept is false, means the effect of environment and the generation of a need. Can we sprout wings wishing to fly like birds? Can it happen that if we want to fly like bird, we can just, okay, my internal force, please, please help me out to have individual wings. I want wings, I want fly. Okay, so it is not going to happen. Okay, so that is why the second concept is false, that we cannot command our environment to give us a change which can make us a new species. We cannot command it, or it cannot happen within a few fraction of time. Okay. The third concept is somewhat true, like well developed bicep muscles of blacksmith and less developed wings of flightless birds. Yeah, that's true, but it depends. Mean it depends. The third concept is somewhat true, that well-developed bicep muscles of blacksmith and less developed wings in flightless birds. But this concept also have many objections, like the eyes of the student, reader, they do not increase in size. I mean, I am a teacher, you are a student. Our eye muscles are not going to increase in size in terms of function. Rather, we are basically, when I am having a diminishing vision day by day. So it basically depends upon the individual, depends upon the environment around that individual, that every environment is different, every individual is different. Okay. And the power with increasing age. Okay. The constantly beating heart maintains a constant size through generation. The heart is constantly beating, the heart rate is constant throughout generation. Mean the adult person, they should have a greater size of heart, more size of heart, so that to increase the cardiac output, but it is not going to happen. Fourth concept is completely false, because acquired characters are not inherited. Acquired characters are not inherited. So this I have just proved the Lamarckism and the criticism of Lamarckism, that okay, it is not up to the mark theory for evolution. Westman. Westman cut off the tails of rats for about 22 generations, but there was no reduction in the size of the tail on basis of this environment. Because actually generation of rat is because of the presence of some particular segment of DNA information. And that information is passed through gamete, not by the tail. So that is why the somatic characters, if they are changing, the reproductive characters can lead to some different changes or the appearance of the parental characters. Okay. So it will not like that changing the somatic characters will change the generations. Okay. Westman proposed the theory of continuity of germplasm. Yeah, it is very important. Westman proposed the theory of continuity of germplasm. According to Westman, two types of matters are present in organisms. In organisms, there are two types of matters, somatoplasm and germplasm. That is what I was actually trying to tell. Somatoplasm means the somatic cells. The cells that are not going to change because they basically make us that we belong to a particular species. Like for example, humans, they have 46 chromosomes. So in around 22 set of chromosome, 44 chromosomes, they are identical. But one of the set of chromosome, either XY or XX, that makes a differentiating character. Okay. So these cells which don't go or don't undergo any change, they are known as what somatic cells, which undergo the process of mitotic division just to maintain the size, just to maintain the shape of the body. Okay. And one is germplasm, which is mean gamete. The somatoplasm, somatic cell, and germplasm, germinal cell. The germplasm basically helps to make gametes, and these gamete fertilizes with half of set of chromosome to form a zygote. Okay, and somatoplasm, no, if a change in somatoplasm is done, so there is, it is not like that somatoplasm is going to change the whole species. Okay, whole generation. Somatoplasm dies with the death of organism, but germplasm transfers into next generation. So before the death, the germplasm is being carried by the gamete, okay, and the next generation of that parental family, okay. When father mother before death, they basically continue with their germplasm transmission in the form of gamete, and they have a new generations, and this is the law of nature, law of universe. If any variation develops in germplasm, it is inherited, while if variation develops in somatoplasm, it is not inherited. Not inherited. So it simply means the somatoplasm or the variations of somatoplasm, they are not inheritable. Okay. But in case of germplasm or the gametes, if the change is there, then it will be inherited. Understood? So this is the Westman theory of germplasm. Now coming to next, neo-Lamarckism. The neo-Lamarckism is the term given by Packard. Although Lamarckism remained controversial, but some scientists gave the following evidences in favor of Lamarckism. These are known as neo-Lamarckism. And they were the greatest supporters of Lamarckism. According to neo-Lamarckism, environment affected the inheritance of acquired character. According to it, changing environment give rise to some physical and chemical changes in organism which affect their germplasm, and these acquired characters are definitely inherited. So according to neo-Lamarckism, that environment basically impose a change, and that change in terms of acquired character is basically, you know, uh, proposed or categorized or served, by us in the form of acquiring that change, okay, adapting that change. And if we are adapting that change, the change, it will be definitely transmit from our generation to the coming generation of ours. Okay. So according to neo-Lamarckism, environment affected the inheritance of acquired character, And according to it, changing environment give rise some physical and chemical changes in organisms which affect their germplasm. And those acquired characters are definitely inherited. For the confirmation, they proposed some types of experiments. Sumner's experiment. Sumner kept white rat in warm temperature, resulting in elongation of body, large pinna, and long tail. These features were inherited by the offspring as well. So Sumner basically he imposed environmental changes and he got to see what? That, okay, body form is changing, elongation of body, large pinna, long tail. These features were inherited by the offspring. Yeah, this experiment actually trying to tell that some of the environmental changes they actually change the DNA. And if the DNA is changed, then the offspring will also be reflecting that change in the form of new character. But it is not like that that always all the acquired characters they are going to inherit it. Okay. Kramer's experiment, very, very, very important. Kramer kept salamander in dark background. The black spots found on skin were widely spread, means because of the greater production of melanin. In lighter background, the skin become yellow with limited black spots. These characters were inherited by the offspring. So actually, these environmental changes, they are changing the biochemical aspects. They are changing the proteins. They are changing the DNA. And that is why it is happening. Okay. So all these changes, they are basically influencing the biochemical changes. Okay. Sumner's experiment, he kept white rat in warm temperature resulting in the elongation of body, large pinna and long tail. These features were inherited by the offspring. Kramer's experiment, Kramer kept salamander in dark background. The black spots found on skin were widely spread because of the greater production of melanin. In lighter background, the skin becomes yellow with limited black spots. Okay, this character were inherited by the offspring. McDougall's experiment. McDougall trained white rats to cross a tank of water following a definite route. These trained rats were mated and their offspring were again trained. It was observed that there was a decrease in the number of errors by offsprings of white rats. Okay. So McDougall trained white rats to cross a tank of water following a definite route. These trained rats were mated and their offspring were again trained, and it was observed that there was a decrease in the number of errors by offspring. So these were some experiments conducted by different scientists to support Lamarck, and this, is known as what? Neo-Lamarckism. It is known as what? Neo-Lamarckism. Now we are going to start with Darwin or Darwinism, but the Darwinism and the theories of Darwinism we are going to start in the next lecture. Till then, my dear students, please go through the previous videos so that you can have a better connect for the coming lectures. Till then, bye bye, take care, stay safe.